Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Are you at risk of retiring from retirement? Meaning, are you going to quit being retired? That's a scary thought. The time, energy, and effort and dedication it took to put your money to work so that you don't ever have to, and you quit? What a monumental waste of time that would be. So I came up with 4 things that I wanted to consider when I retired early that could make somebody retire from retirement. And I think number 4 is probably what's going to get me. But first, I want to define being retired or being retired early. And this is when work is optional. You have more money coming in from sources where you don't have to sell your life 1 hour at a time. And you can be lazy like me. You can have that motivation to not have an alarm clock, not have a boss, not have responsibilities. You can be like a lot of people and want to create generational wealth, which I actually think is kind of a mistake. I think the most important thing we can do for our kids is not create wealth for them, but it is to take care of our own financial position so that we don't become a financial burden to our kids when we are too old to work for ourselves. There are people who I actually have a lot of respect for that want to reach financial freedom because they actually want to work in a field that they have a lot of passion for, but maybe doesn't make a lot of money. I have a friend, Steve, who is a music teacher, and I need to build some steps. Being a music teacher in some cases doesn't pay a lot of money. So he's reaching financial freedom with his fiancée, house hacking, and they are going to reach financial freedom by investing in real estate so that he can then teach music and not care about how much money it makes. Whatever reason you choose to motivate you to reach financial freedom, it's still going to take, I think, on the fast track, 5 years. I think the average person can reach financial freedom in 10 years or less, make work completely optional, even if you're not starting from the best position. But let's look at the first one. The first thing that can make you retire from retirement. And this one almost got Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time. And that's being bored, right? He had a high-stress job with a sense of accomplishment that he did for decades, and then kind of in a rage quit moment, went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and at 8:45 in the morning, he was out the door. 6 months later, he's actually said this himself, so I'm not diming him out. He said, I felt like a failure, like a loser. And at 6 months, he was almost considering going back to work. And lucky for us, he decided to write One Rental at a Time for himself, which then turned into a YouTube channel, a course, a community. Like a community that got together in Vegas in February of 2024 for a live event celebrating him hitting 50,000 subscribers because he was bored. Is that going to hit you? That is not me. I'm the lazy person that can do a lot of nothing. I actually believe in Calvin and Hobbes when he says, there is never enough time to do all of the nothing that you want to. Is the second thing, and this one could hurt. The second thing that can make a person retire from retirement, in my opinion, would be, there's a shower going in there, going broke. Not planning financially correct for the length of retirement that you're going to have or what's going to happen with real estate prices, rents, appreciation, stock market, crypto, the business that you grow to sell doesn't sell for what you expect. People thinking the 4% rule works. In the last few years, people have said maybe it's the 3 or the 3.5% rule, and maybe it's really the 2% rule. So when you go to retire early, I would absolutely make sure that you are considering the cost of inflation. What could happen? What black swan events could happen that could make you go back to work because of money? That's one of the reasons why I chose real estate. I'm not saying it's a better asset class, but it fits my goals better in that with real estate, we actually use inflation to get rich. Somebody should make a t-shirt. So, have a plan, stick to it. Don't let money be the reason you go back to work. The third one, the one that we don't have a lot of control over and that can happen to anybody, is healthcare. An absolute major health event can and often does destroy retirements. It's the leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. There's one metric to look at. If you're in the United States, healthcare is significantly more costly than most of the places I've been to. There's an insurance plan that I use. It's about $700 a month, and it has a no cap, so you can literally have no limit to the expenses for your plan. The America Cares Act or the Obamacare or whatever is very useful for investors in real estate because with depreciation and write-offs, it looks like we don't make anything, so you get most of that taken care of. But if you go to another country and you become an expat and you spend a lot of time in Thailand or Colombia, like I plan on doing, there's healthcare for less than $60 a month that has the same coverage. And usually the same doctors, because that's where people come from with those degrees that we're looking for. Maintain your health. This comes from my live stream recently where I talked about how to manage stress, what you eat, do you exercise, and what sleep pattern do you have? One of the best things about retiring early is, I think one of the largest stressors that we do to our lives is live a type of life where you have an alarm clock. We're not meant as a species to wake up when you're supposed to. We have a body that we should wake up when it's ready. And that can happen when you retire early. And for me, it happens to be a completely random number. This morning is 1:30. Tomorrow, it's probably going to be noon. But you can't do that as long as you have to sell your life 1 hour at a time to pay the bills. So retiring early can actually take care of that healthcare issue, one of the main leading causes of healthcare issues. But this fourth one, this one that's probably going to be the one that takes me out. The definition of retirement. I have talked with some people who say, if you own stocks, you're not retired because you have to watch the stock market. You have to actively figure out what your 4% is, what you can withdraw. If you own crypto, you're not retired because you're watching all of these charts to figure out which moves you need to make. If you run a business, even with somebody else, that you've grown the business to a scale where somebody else runs the day-to-day, and you still have the stress of all of the employees and legislation changes, and if you own real estate, you are not retired because you still have tenants, toilets, and termites. Even if managing 16 rented out rental units takes you less than 2 hours a month, I've had people say that's not retired. I consider it retired. I actually took a poll one time and people agreed with me that less than 2 hours a month to make a little over $200,000 a year that I have to figure out how to spend is retired. But the definition. In the years that I was growing a real estate portfolio, I was running a truck driving school. I was working 60-ish hours a week. Some weeks I'd only work 50 because I'm lazy, but around 60 hours a week. And there was a lot of stress to it, a lot of time involved, and there was no time clock, right? I can get a call at midnight when one of our night instructors was having an issue with the truck, and I'd be the one taking care of it and calling a tow truck and handling those things. So I'm used to not having that time freedom. So when I retire and I have all of this time, right? 60 hours a week back, that's mine every single week to do whatever I want with. I'll be straight up transparent and use a word some people don't like, but I'm using it in the right context. I'm retarded. So instead of buying like I normally do, I call them turnkey, but there's no turnkey company involved. I was buying properties from the MLS, preferably with tenants in place, that needed little to no work, so that when I fixed things up, it was actually an improvement to the tenant, not fixing something that was broken. A couple $1,000, send a handyman, introduce myself to the tenants, maybe a couple of hours to close on the deal of buying that property. And then less than 2 hours a month to manage that property for the next few years. I decided, in my infinite genius, I'm gonna do my first BRRRR project, because one of my risks I think there is with a BRRRR, which is to buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat your real estate, is a way I'm going to create over $250,000 with this deal that I'm doing. But dealing with multiple contractors, multiple timelines, multiple permitting agencies, and my lazy, This is not the strategy I will do again, even though this one is self-funded, so I don't have hard money to deal with. I might or might not refinance at the end because I don't need to grow my portfolio anymore, but I might like to put the money to work. I got lucky. I did this Burr project, and as much money as it just literally creates out of thin air, I don't like it. But what if I did? What if I got into this and I realized I like figuring out how to use these tools at my feet and how a paint sprayer works and a jigsaw to cut the hole for the shower pan and all of these things that I could hire somebody to do or do myself. But what if I really enjoyed it? I did all of that work to reach financial freedom so that I can have a new job? No, thank you very much. So those are the things I think you should consider when you go to retire early. If you're going to be putting all of the time, energy, and effort, if you're going to quit because you're bored, don't do it. If you are going to, I love my memory, forgot the 4 things. If you're going to quit because you redefine it and you literally just create a new job for yourself, what's the point? Find a job you love and build somebody else's passion project so that they can retire early. If you're going to invest in such a way that you have to live so frugally that you can go broke with some major event that happens, maybe you should just keep working a job. But I think if you have these things in your mind while you work towards financial freedom, it's going to be a lot easier for you to choose the path that makes the most sense for your goals. I hope this video at least made you think. If you want your questions answered during a live stream, I do those every Tuesday afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.